Hello everyone, here we are going to discuss the three major parts of computer graphics. So computer graphics has been um, traditionally made up of three sub areas. The first of which is modeling, where we set up our synthetic virtual world and a camera that allows us to take pictures of that virtual world. Then we have rendering, where we actually take a picture using the camera that we set up, and we figure out how lighting happens in our virtual world while because we need it for creating this picture. And the third one is animation, where we figure out how the various objects that make up our virtual world move around, and we create the animation out of these. So let us look at these in a little bit more detail. So let us start with modeling. So in modeling, we are going to learn about, we are also going to talk about what we will learn in this course in each of these sub areas. So in modeling, we are going to learn about lines and polygons, how to specify lines, polygons, curves and surfaces. So we are going to learn how to set up the geometry of our virtual worlds. Then we are going to figure out how to create transformations that allow us to create transformed instances of these objects that make up our virtual world. We will figure out how to determine whether one object occludes another object, or whether some surface is transparent and we can see something else behind that surface. So for example, here you can see that this teapot is occluding this cone. So we should not draw the parts of the cone that are occluded by the teapot. For this, we have to remove the surfaces of the cone that are hidden by the teapot. So this is known as hidden surface elimination, and is an integral part of rendering. And finally, we will set up our camera. So here you can see that a camera has been set up, and the region of the world that is going to get rendered into our final image has to lie inside what we know as the camera frustum. So we'll figure out how to set up this camera frustum given the distance of the near clipping plane, the far clipping plane, and the bounds of the frustum. And that will allow us to have a scene that is ready to be drawn to the computer. And that brings us to the second part of computer graphics. So the second part of computer graphics is known as rendering. So rendering basically means drawing an image to the computer screen. In this context, so we have, in computer graphics, we figure out what kind of lights are placed in the scene, and how these lights interact with objects that are there in the scene. And depending upon how light interact with these objects, we get the shading on the surface of the object. Now, the way in which lighting is computed at various surface points depend upon lighting or illumination models, and the final color that we get there on a pixel or on entire objects is computed using shading models which are used, right? So here you can see that a teapot has been rendered using various kinds of shading models. So here is a teapot that is rendered using a constant model. So everything on the teapot is just one single color. You cannot make out any surface detail. Then you can see that here is just the highlight on the surface of the teapot. Sorry. Here you can see that the teapot has been rendered with very diffuse illumination, and the fourth one is actually a combination of all these three. So these three are actually components of the lighting model that we will use to create this final image of the teapot. So we will learn more about this in a lecture on shading and illumination. What we can also do is change the material property of the teapot. So here you can see a copper teapot, a glass teapot, a silver teapot. You can also see teapots which may not exist in real life. So here, for example, is a glowing neon teapot, and here is a teapot with a shiny checkerboard pattern on it. So when you put a pattern on any surface in computer graphics, we do it via texture mapping, which is a very interesting method to create different kinds of effects. Here in the bottom right, you can see a more complicated image that has been created using a rendering algorithm known as ray tracing, that allows us to create very interesting, realistic looking reflections, refractions, and other complicated lighting effects. So we will learn about two kinds of rendering models. So for the most part, we will study rasterization, which is going to be our primary rendering workhorse for real-time graphics. And we will also talk about ray tracing towards the end of the course, and we will see how we can create higher quality renders by doing more computation. The final part of computer graphics is, of course, animation. So we all know what is animation because we have seen animated films. So animation is basically moving the objects that are there in our scene around, and this movement can be done using various ways. So the position and the sizes and the orientation of various objects in the scene are described using transformations. So we basically change the parameters of these transformations to move objects around in the scene. So we will study interpolation and keyframing as two methods or keyframing that uses interpolation rather as a method for performing animation. And by the end of this course, you will be able to create a short animation film. So here on the screen, you can see that we have an example of Pixar's Luxo, and inspired by that, students who did this course in 2009 created their own version of the Luxo movie. So and then you have samples from films created by students from subsequent years. We have run this project every year of the course since its inception, and every year students come up with wonderful short films, and all the coding for these films is done from scratch. So you are going to write the modeler, you are going to do the rendering, and you are going to write the keyframe animation routines, and the final result will be that you should be able to get a short film. So these are the three broad classes of computer graphics. These are the three broad parts of computer graphics that we will handle in this course. There is just one more thing that I want to talk to you about. This is what we will start the course with, which involves drawing in 2D. So this is the fundamental algorithms that constitute rasterization. So as I said, that rasterization is one of the rendering algorithms that we will talk about in the course. So put simply, rasterization is just figuring out which pixels to color. So the computer screen is made up of a grid of pixels, and when you are trying to draw a scene on the screen, like say the Mandelbrot set on the left, or that wireframe tea set with the teapot and the 4 cups and the saucers on the right, to draw either of these you need to figure out which pixels should get what color. And the set of algorithms that tell us this are the class of rasterization algorithms, and this is where we will start our study of computer graphics. Thank you.